Ever heard of those couples who start in like the most unexpected ways?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, get ready for this one, because David and Sarah's story is exactly that. Imagine having a major crush on someone back in high school, only to reconnect years later
Oh, wow.
and find yourself falling head over heels.
Sounds like a movie.
It does.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with David. He
Mhm.
was 28 when he bumped into Sarah,
Yeah.
now 31 at a mutual friend's birthday party.
It's like the universe decided to give him a second chance years after their paths diverged.
Right.
I wonder if that time apart actually made their connection stronger.
Maybe. So back in high school, David had this massive crush on Sarah,
Okay.
but he was too shy to do anything about it. And they
Oh,
went their separate ways after graduation.
okay.
Sarah even moved abroad for a while.
Oh, wow. Distance and time can change things dramatically. I'm curious, how did their reunion at the party go? Was there still a spark after all these years?
Well, they hit it off right away. They caught up, reminisced about old times, and even exchanged numbers.
Nice.
David, ever the hopeful romantic, was relieved to see no sign of a boyfriend on her social media.
Ah, the modern day way of checking relationship status. But it sounds like he was still playing it cool, taking things slow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to rush things this time. They started hanging out as friends, going to the movies, grabbing coffee, typical friend things.
Yeah.
But their connection was undeniable.
There's something to be said for building a foundation of friendship before diving into romance.
Yeah,
It allows for a different kind of intimacy to develop, wouldn't you say?
absolutely. And somewhere along the way, friendship blossomed into something more. They started dating and quickly fell for each other. Within a year, they were officially a couple,
Wow.
and everyone could see how happy they were. It really seemed like they were meant to be.
It's amazing how sometimes those roundabout journeys lead to the most fulfilling destinations.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's where things get interesting. About 3 years into the relationship, they hosted a dinner party at their place.
Okay.
Sarah's best friend, Emily, and her husband were there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was having a great time until Emily, who had a little too much to drink.
Uh-oh.
Let's slip a little secret.
Alcohol and secrets rarely mix well.
No.
What did she say?
Well, Emily, in her slightly inebriated state, blurted out, "Sarah, remember when you didn't even want to go on that first date with David?
Uh-huh.
You only went because I convinced you."
Oh, wow. Talk about dropping a bombshell.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how often we make life-altering decisions based on the nudges of our friends. I can only imagine how David felt hearing that.
He was completely stunned.
Yeah.
You could tell Sarah was mortified.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Emily's husband quickly whisked her way to bed.
Damage control at its finest.
Yeah,
But those words were out there, hanging in the air.
right.
I imagine that must have put a damper on the rest of the evening.
It definitely did. Later that night, Sarah went to David, clearly upset, and apologized profusely, saying Emily's words shouldn't matter.
That's a tough situation to be in, trying to reassure someone while also dealing with the reality of the situation.
And David, understandably, was hurt and confused. He just asked her point blank, "Is it true?"
He needed to hear it straight from her. It's about honesty and rebuilding trust after such a revelation. What did Sarah say?
Well, Sarah, with her heart in her hand, admitted that she had been hesitant initially. She knew about David's high school crush and didn't want to hurt him.
It sounds like she was trying to protect him, even though it ultimately led to this awkward situation.
Exactly. She confessed that she'd even talked to Emily about letting David down gently.
Oh, wow.
But Emily, being the ever-optimistic friend, thought they should at least go on a few dates before making any decisions.
Ah, the classic friend intervention. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But in this case, it seems to have worked out in a way that no one could have predicted. It's a classic tale of good intentions gone slightly awry. But it makes you wonder, what was it about David that changed Sarah's mind?
Well, according to Sarah, David wasn't anything like. She remembered he was kind, funny, and genuinely interested in getting to know her.
Yeah.
They had amazing conversations, discovered shared interests, and she quickly realized she was enjoying his company more than she expected.
It's fascinating how our perceptions of people can evolve over time, especially when we allow ourselves to see them without the baggage of past impressions.
Right. And the fact that David approached their reconnection with a genuine desire to build a friendship first probably helped.
Yeah.
It allowed Sarah to let her guard down and see him in a new light.
Absolutely. It takes the pressure off of those initial interactions and allows for a more authentic connection to emerge.
Exactly. But even with Sarah's explanation, David was still understandably hurt.
Of course.
He felt like their whole relationship had been built on a lie, and it made him question everything.
That's a natural reaction. It's a blow to your ego and makes you reevaluate the foundation of your relationship. Did he confront Sarah about it further?
He did the next morning, after Emily, sobered up and full of regret, apologized for her drunken confession.
Right.
David sat down with Sarah and asked her to explain what she meant by initially not wanting to date him.
Okay.
He needed to understand her perspective.
That's an important step in any relationship, seeking clarity and understanding rather than letting resentment fester.
And Sarah, being completely honest, confessed that she felt awkward about the whole situation. She knew about David's past feelings and worried about being put on a pedestal.
It's almost as if she felt a pressure to live up to this idealized image of herself that she didn't believe was entirely realistic.
Exactly. And she also admitted that back then she thought David was a little, well, weird.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What did she mean by weird? Give us some context here. Was it something specific or just a general high school perception?
Unfortunately, we don't have those details.
Okay.
Maybe it was just a case of youthful misjudgment.
Mm-hmm.
People change, they grow, and it's clear that whatever weirdness Sarah perceived back then had completely vanished.
That's a great reminder that we shouldn't let first impressions or past experiences dictate our present interactions.
Right.
People deserve a chance to show us who they've become.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after hearing Sarah's honest explanation, David asked her what changed after their first date.
Yeah.
And Sarah's response was incredibly sweet. She said that despite her initial reservations, she was drawn to his genuineness and the undeniable chemistry between them.
That moment of realization when genuine connection overrides any lingering doubts or assumptions, it's what makes a relationship move from hesitant to hopeful.
And to make things even sweeter, she confessed that now 3 years later, she thinks she has a bigger crush on him than he ever had on her.
That's adorable. It highlights how relationships can evolve in such unexpected and beautiful ways.
It really does. And you know what? Despite the initial awkwardness of the situation, David couldn't help but laugh. He realized that despite the rocky start, their love had evolved into something far more meaningful than he could have ever imagined.
It's a testament to the fact that sometimes those unexpected beginnings can lead to the most profound connections.
They decided to revisit the scene of their first date, the same restaurant, to sort of symbolize a fresh start.
Mm.
They even tried to order the same dishes, but one of them wasn't on the menu anymore.
Symbolic, wouldn't you say? Things change, evolve, but the core connection remains.
Totally. And as the days went by, those initial doubts that David had started to fade away, he realized that Sarah never intended to hurt him, and their love had blossomed in a way neither of them could have predicted.
It's a reminder that honesty and vulnerability, while sometimes painful, can ultimately lead to deeper intimacy and trust.
Absolutely. And guess what? They decided to take the next big step.
I bet I know they're going ring shopping in early December.
Wedding bells are definitely in the air.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings can lead to the most fulfilling relationships.
Absolutely. Their story is a reminder that love isn't always a straight path. There can be twists and turns, doubts and uncertainties. But what matters is how we navigate those challenges, how we communicate, and ultimately how we choose to move forward.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could little initial reluctance actually be the secret ingredient to a truly lasting connection?
Perhaps it forces us to question our assumptions, to look beyond the surface, and to truly appreciate the depth and complexity of another person. And sometimes that's where the real magic begins.
It's funny how things work out, isn't it? You start with a bit of hesitation, maybe even a little doubt, and it leads you to something truly special.
It's like those winding country roads that eventually lead you to the most breathtaking view. You just have to trust the journey, even when it takes unexpected turns.
Exactly. David and Sarah's story is a perfect example of that, and it makes me think about all the potential connections we might miss out on because of our preconceived notions or past experiences.
It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest opportunities for love and growth come disguised as challenges. It's up to us to recognize them and have the courage to take that leap of faith.
It's so true. And maybe a little initial reluctance can actually help us build stronger, more authentic relationships. It allows us to move past superficial impressions and really get to know someone on a deeper level.
It's about peeling back those layers and discovering the hidden depths of another person, and that kind of discovery can be incredibly rewarding, both for ourselves and for the relationship.
It definitely gives you something to think about. Who knows? Maybe the most fulfilling relationships are the ones that start with a question mark instead of an exclamation point.
That's a great point to end on. I think a little mystery and a little uncertainty can go a long way in keeping things interesting and exciting.
Absolutely.
It's
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
been a pleasure as always.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, exploring the unexpected turns of love and relationships.